Hey guys, Jared with Tier 1 Concealed. Today we're out shooting and I'm gonna go over how I grip a handgun in order to help me manage recoil better. All right guys, we got a empty Glock 19. So I'm just gonna pass this off to Sawyer here. He's gonna confirm that it's empty so that we're completely safe. All right, so just going over the main things of how I grip a handgun. Obviously, I wanna get as high in that back strap as I can. And then I also like to have a good amount of pressure on this middle finger that comes under the trigger guard. I want to be mashing that upward, and that I find helps me stay high and tight on that. So once I've established a good dominant hand grip, I've got all this surface area right here that I want to fill in, and I want to fill that in with the meat of my palm back here. It sits right in there, especially if I cam that wrist forward, it kind of naturally will sit right in there. So what I want to do is make sure that I don't have a huge open gap in the back here. And then I'm going to compress my fingers around and just mash everything together with that support hand. So, and this is where it gets controversial depending on who you're talking to. So with me, I like as much surface area up high as I do down low on the gun. Actually bring my support hand thumb up and over. I'm not pushing down on my hand like this. I actually rest it up here and I kind of bring the meat of my hand in on this top area of the gun. That's also why I run an extended slide release, because I would opt for control over the gun rather than locking back, but that solves the problem. So I'm here and I bring that in with some inward pressure into the gun, and then I like to run my thumbs cammed forward and applying pressure all the way down towards the front of the muzzle. When I present, I've got control up to the front of the gun, right closest to where that blast is happening. So I have really firm pressure all the way around the gun. Now, if I'm going to run the gun super duper fast, I might increase a little bit of pressure in that support hand to free up a little dexterity in the dominant hand. That's about the only time. But generally I can keep that solid grip and maintain right around a 2-0 split. So that's the way that I grip a handgun. We're gonna let these guys tell you how they grip their handgun.
You know, everybody grips the gun differently because everyone's different. Their hands aren't all the same. So there's a few fundamentals that everyone like to follow. But once you've established those fundamentals, you can adjust them slightly to make it a little bit more comfortable and effective for you, because Jared likes to ride up a little bit higher with his support hand than I do. And granted, he does have a lot bigger hands, but I tend to ride it a little bit lower so my slide stop isn't as exposed.
Impeded.
But, yeah, and impeded.
Do you think about where your thumb is, your support hand thumb is sitting on that ledge? Do you think about providing any downward pressure or anything on that?
Yeah, I did make that cut a little bit aggressive, kind of like the accelerator cut or the gas pedal that a lot of race guns have. But I do like to have a little bit of inward pressure on that. Not so much that it's affecting like where my shots are going. Is, you know, if you're applying too much grip with one hand, it'll pull left or right or up or down. But just enough to give me a little bit more leverage, giving a little bit more advantage than I would if it was just kind of resting on there.
Some movement will be in my elbows and shoulders. Hands and wrists are staying tight and locked out in this position.
So ideally, when you're shooting, you should have no movement in your wrist under recoil. It should be transferring that energy through your arms and elbows and into your shoulders, chest area. Yeah. Right?
Correct. That's what I think. That's how I try to do it.
Okay, so now we're gonna mess with our grip and kind of change the angle of our wrist a little bit. We'll watch it under slow motion and just see if there's any difference. Okay, so we're setting up here to change our wrist angle. One thing I noticed right off the bat, and it makes me super uncomfortable, is the meat of my palm where my thumb is, when I cam forward, it allows it to fit around more of the frame. Whereas if I bring it down, I'm dropping that meat and I'm leaving a good portion basically from the mag release all the way up with nothing on that. So it feels really uncomfortable right out of the gate. So we're gonna try this and just kind of keep our thumbs off, and we'll grip real hard and see how we do. So also keeping my thumb up, I did notice that I tend to impede the slide a little bit. So don't do that. So for me, just changing that wrist angle, the biggest thing that I took away from that is the loss of real estate that I can typically make contact with on the frame. So it felt super uncomfortable because I'm trying to control the gun from the back and the lower part of the gun, right? Which I feel like the muzzle has more leverage against me by leaving that much frame exposed instead of getting as much contact around the frame as I can. Just changing that brings the meat of my thumb way down off the side of the gun. I don't know what you guys saw.
Yeah, it feels very similar. Like it almost seems like I'm only gripping and having input with like my last 3 fingers, having my wrist in that position. Like when I can cam it forward, I can squeeze with my whole hand, all my fingers and my thumb. But when it's not cammed forward and my thumb's completely off, I have like almost no strength there, and seems like it has so much leverage against me every time I fire.
I could really feel the stippling of my gun, like moving a ton against what little part of that meaty part of my hand contacting the gun. But changing that angle, I feel like really affected kind of the biomechanics of the wrist. I feel like Aaron said I couldn't put as much strength into the grip of the gun as I could if I had it at this angle. Maybe because I'm used to it, but I feel like I could just put a lot more input into that side of the gun when I have that angle locked in.
So we're gonna try and we'll each shoot 6 or so rounds, doing our best to manage the recoil. We're not gonna fudge anything, but we're gonna lock our arms straight out. So, and then we'll discuss any type of awkwardness or tension, or see if there's a big difference in the controllability of the gun. I still felt like I could control the gun pretty good. The only difference is that I just felt more uncomfortable because I'm deliberately trying to force my elbows in to lock out. So it's just added strain. Overall though, I felt like the management of the gun was fairly similar. Why don't you guys try it?
That it's way more uncomfortable, and that's gonna really shine when you're trying to be more accurate for longer strings of fire.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel natural. The gun is extending a little bit further off my body, so I feel like I kind of have to counterbalance that a little bit more. And I am straining more, keeping it there. So
the whole purpose of managing recoil, and I'm sure someone will disagree with me, which is fine, but to me, it's quicker shots on target. Well, if your target size is large and you're close, you can probably open it up a bit as far as your speed on that, because you're going to recover within that margin of acceptable accuracy quicker than you would if you were trying to hold a tighter group. So let's experiment with that a little bit, and we'll just get some clean targets up here, and we'll shoot 6 rounds in a head box and then 6 rounds in the body, and we'll run it on a timer and just see if we can still maintain hits in the target zone we're looking for, and see the difference in speed. .129, and that one was clean. Good shooting.
6 rounds?
Yeah. Shoot ready?
Ready.
Stand by. Yep, 6 rounds. So 5 rounds in 108, and those were all clean.
116 clean.
All right.
Very nice.
So 8-inch circle, about 7, we're 7 yards away. What were some of the splits on that? 2 O's?
Yeah, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 19, 19, 18.
Okay, so you're able to go at a fairly quick pace and maintain a pretty good level of accuracy. We're probably fitting in more of a 5 to 6 inch circle there. So now we're gonna go at the head box and we're gonna do 6 shots. And once again, trying to maintain that accuracy. We're gonna see the difference in our speed with that.
.196 clean.
.165 clean.
So the issue is because you're holding yourself to a higher standard of accuracy, you need to spend a little bit more time confirming, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you could just let it rip and they all end up in there, but you kind of have to try and make sure that it's going to hit.
157.
All right. So depending on what you're seeing, ultimately that's the most important thing, is tracking your sights, right? Because that's what's going to tell you when you should be firing next. So the only thing that recoil management is going to help with is getting you to that next shot potentially quicker. The biggest key is as high and tight as you can get on the gun and cover as much surface area as you can with your hands, because every bit of that friction is going to aid you in managing that recoil. So, and then there's a certain level, depending on what gun you're shooting. Like we said, higher calibers, you might have bigger splits because it's taking you a second to recover those sights on there, because you can only give so much input into whatever gun that you're shooting. So understanding your gun, training with your gun, and figuring out how much pressure and input you're going to give into the gun is going to help you. So once again, all of us here are pretty similar in the way that we grip a gun, but there's a lot of people that do it differently. You can, and I think we demonstrated, but once again, you can come up here and cam those wrists forward and not have input from your thumb and keep the gun relatively flat. So not saying that that stuff's impossible, but that's where you have to tailor it to yourself. Go out, try the different methods. I try to listen and take information in from everybody, but what I do with the information ultimately is up to me. I can go out and experiment with it and go, hey, that works. I'm getting the accuracy and speed that I want, right? Because ultimately I think that's what all of us should be measuring on, is that speed being held accountable by accuracy, because just ripping it as fast as you can doesn't mean anything, obviously. So once again, these are just our thoughts. This isn't the way, it is a way, as Scott Jedlinski of Modern Samurai Project would say. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this answered some questions. If you have any other questions, let us know in the comment box. We're trying to address any questions you guys may have about this. I think a lot of people feel like there's this secret sauce, special formula for managing recoil, but it's all pretty much very similar across the board. Once again, your height, your hand size, all of these things, the type of gun you're shooting, a lot of these things will matter into what results you're going to get. So ultimately, it's up to you though to tailor this information to you, your body type and everything. So get out, train, or take out a loan, get some ammo, whatever you got to do. So make sure to like, subscribe. If you feel like you have any friends that might benefit from some of this information, feel free to share. We appreciate it. Have a good one.